AR gravity, any day above ground living. Well, it's every night now. We're about to wind down. We're about to wind down. But I figured I'd bring this to you before somebody else brings it to you. And then when somebody else brings it to you, they might do a better job. And then you don't come over here no more. And then I get pissed off. And then I just figure out how I'm gonna grift. Nah, I'm just kidding. I figured, shout out to Jason Black on his commentary about Deion Sanders and the state of the NCAA. But I figured, you know what? Let me bring y'all Donald Trump real fast. We don't talk about Trump too often. Tori and Rain, hello. We don't talk about Trump too often. He did an interview with NBC, and apparently, from what I've heard, it went off the rails. But that's Trump going Trump. So MAGA going MAGA.
No medicine, there'd be no mayonnaise. No medicine, there'd be no mayonnaise. No medicine, there'd be no mayonnaise. No medicine, there'd be no mayonnaise.
Yeah, MAGA going MAGA. So we're going to take a look at Trump talking to new host
President Trump, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Meet the Press, Kristen Welker. We're going to watch this and we're going to see how quickly it went off the rails because it's Trump, of course. So let's just make sure we proofed it. Yes, we did.
Right into this, a lot to get to.
Let's go.
There are a number of things that make your campaign unprecedented. You are the first former president to run for re-election in more than 100 years. You are facing 4 indictments. You have an incredibly significant lead in the GOP primary polls.
Well, damn, lady. Okay, so you already went out there. All right, you already talking shit. I like it though. It's spicy. I like it. Wait, is this full screen? I guess. Okay, it's full screen. Yeah, she's already out here talking shit. I like it though. Go ahead.
But I want to ask you this, Mr. President. Why do you want to be president again?
Well, it's a very simple answer, and I can give it very easily. It's called Make America Great Again. Our country is in serious trouble. I don't think we've ever been so low in terms of certainly opinion, world opinion, and country opinion. People are devastated. They look at what's happening with millions of people coming in, millions of illegal immigrants coming into our country, flooding our cities, flooding the countryside. I think the number is going to be 15 million people by the time you end this. By the end of this year, I think the real number is going to be 15 million people. They come from prisons. They come from mental institutions, insane asylums. They say, sir, please don't use that term, but it's true. They're terrorists at a level. It was very interesting. On NBC, I saw a poll and I saw some statistics, and it said in 2019, there were no terrorists. They caught no terrorists. There was nothing that they saw. There was no anything. And now, this year, it's a record number like they've never seen before. So we did a great job at the border. We did a great job with the military. We did a great job with inflation. We had essentially no inflation. We had a great economy. And we didn't have an Afghanistan disaster. We were getting out, but we were going to get out with dignity and pride, not the way they got out. That was a surrender and an embarrassment and horrible. We gave $85 billion worth of equipment to the Taliban. We had death, so much death and so much horrible destruction. And it was a terrible thing. I think it was the lowest point in the history of our country. Now, with all of that, we can change it and we can make America great again. And that's why I'm doing this.
Well, and you have talked about a lot. We are going to delve into a number of issues.
I wonder how y'all feel about that. For those in the live chat and those that are going to see this on the playback, I wonder how you feel about that.
Brought up, talked about all the people coming across the border. Of course, a lot of families also coming across the border as
Sure.
well. I want to talk to you about that a little bit later on. But first, let's talk about the breaking news today. We learned just a short time ago that the president's son, Hunter Biden, was indicted by a federal grand jury on 3 gun charges. Given that, Mr. President, can you continue to say that there are 2 systems of justice?
Well, I think there's no question about it. He had a plea deal that was the deal of the century, the art of the deal. You could write a book on it, the art of the deal.
And there he goes self-promoting.
A judge who was able to, a brilliant judge actually, who was able to see through what was happening. And it's a sad situation. I mean, nobody should be happy about this. I'm not happy about it. Nobody is. It's a very sad thing. It's so bad for our country. But, you know, if you think about it, I've been under investigation from the day I came down the escalator, and phony investigation, fake investigations, investigations that I beat every single time, still under investigations. But it's a very sad thing, and it's a slippery slope and dangerous, very dangerous for our country.
But you talked about the plea deal, but now Hunter Biden's been indicted. He's facing very serious charges. So doesn't that undercut your entire argument that there are 2 systems of justice in this country?
It's one of 12 charges. There are 12 possible charges.
And he's
this
still
is
under
the only
investigation.
charge that doesn't affect his father.
Well, he's still under investigation.
Well, sure, maybe. I mean, let's see what happens. But this is the only charge that doesn't affect Joe Biden. This was the gun charge. But gun charges are very serious. You know, people have had gun charges and gone to jail for a lot of years. I pardoned some people who I thought it was just horrible what happened, but they were put in jail for many, many years, rappers and others.
Oh,
so,
God.
Look, it's a bad thing.
He just had to make sure he mentioned rappers. There was other people you pardoned, sir. I mean, okay, but rappers, okay. Sure.
But it's one of 12, and it's the one charge that doesn't affect Joe Biden.
Well, of course, there's no evidence that the president has any link to his son's business dealings. Let me ask you, though,
Well, I don't,
about
I
a
don't
second.
necessarily.
Well,
he called in. I mean, he called in all these meetings. He was calling in on the meetings. He was put on speakerphone, and every single day, and
the witness who
literally
testified.
many calls. And what about the fact that he got rid of the prosecutor for $1 billion?
Well, the witness who
you don't get
testified.
rid of this prosecutor.
That is true. He said, if you don't get rid of that son of a bitch, no more money for you. And he was gone within a week. But you know, the mainstream media is not going to highlight that.
We're not giving you $1 billion to Ukraine. He said that. I mean, there are a lot of things here.
Mr. President, the witness who testified, though, said that he never heard any discussion of business when President Biden was put on the
Wait, you saw the prosecutor thing on television, because I saw it on your network. He said, you don't get rid of this prosecutor, I'm not giving $1 billion.
That was looked into as well. And as you know, there was
Oh,
never any wrongdoing.
If I ever said that, quid pro quo.
Let's move on to what a second Trump term would look
Sure.
like. When you launched your campaign in March, you told the crowd, quote, I am your retribution. What does that mean? What does that look like?
I think retribution is.
What do you mean when he launched it in March? He said he was going to run way back in November. What are you talking about? Okay, sure.
Talking in terms of I have to protect people. What they're doing to people is so horrible. They're putting people in jail for long periods of time. Firemen, policemen, accountants, even lawyers. They're in prisons for years now and don't even have trials in some cases. And if you look at Antifa and other groups, practically nothing happened to them. They burned down Portland. They burned down Minneapolis. They took over Seattle. I mean, they literally took over a big chunk of the city. People died and nothing happened to them. We have to protect all people.
But when you talk about retribution, are you talking about directing your attorney general to try to go after your political enemies?
When I talk about retribution, I'm talking about fairness. We have to treat people fairly. These people on January 6th, some of them never even went into the building, and they're being given sentences of many years.
Are you going to?
And nothing is happening. Well, I'm going to look at them, and I certainly might if I think it's appropriate. No, it's a very, very sad thing, and they're dividing the country so badly, and it's very dangerous.
Well, Mr. President, we're going to delve into that a little bit later on, but I want to stay on this idea of what you mean by retribution. Are you looking to appoint an attorney general who will prosecute the people you tell them to prosecute?
I'm looking to appoint an attorney general who's going to be tough on crime and fair. Very simple.
And go after your political enemies?
No, I would never do that. But Biden has done that. Look,
Whoa.
Biden, these aren't indictments.
Yeah, all right.
Biden indictments.
Yeah, all right, Trump. You gonna tell me you gonna have your AG not go after the people that fuck with you? Yeah, okay. Come on, my guy.
This isn't God coming down and very fairly said, "Joe, you spoke badly about an election." The election was rigged. There's no question about that.
Oh,
So much
Lord,
proof
he's
on
still
it.
saying
Even
it.
if you go to the more modern day proof with the they call it Twitter files, FBI and Twitter, or you take a look at the Amazon stuff or the Google stuff, or you take a look at 2,000 Mules, you take a look at all of the ballot stuffing that's on tape. You take a look at the fact that the legislatures did.
Did he just quote Dinesh D'Souza, another felon? All right. Okay, bruh. Let me tell you something. If you want to win this election, I'm going to need you to distance yourself away from these people. You do not want Dinesh D'Souza on your resume as somebody that's credible. I'm sorry. Lauren Southern is, respect to her for what she's done, going after like traffickers and stuff. But yeah, you don't want her on your resume right now. You don't want that. She been banned damn near everywhere, sir. Boy, these MAGA folk, the company they keep. Continue. I'll cut you off.
Didn't approve a lot of the things that were done in the elections, and they had to approve. And we could go on forever. But no, I want somebody that's going to be strong, respected, tough, and fair.
Just to go back to a couple of the points you said, the ballot stuffing, that's something that's been debunked.
It hasn't.
As
been
you
debunked.
know,
it's on camera.
But I do want to keep moving forward. And of course,
it's on camera. Hundreds, even thousands and thousands of people. You take a look. True the vote. Take a look. It's on camera.
But Mr. President,
they have
you know,
thousands of
Republican
pictures.
officials
But I
and
know,
top law
Kristen, you can't say
enforcement officials
they
have
have
told you that
thousands
that's
of pictures
debunked.
of people. I know you have to say that for your network, but you shouldn't say it because that's the
Well,
problem.
Mr.
The
President,
news has lost such power.
Let's stay on track, though, Mr. President. Let's
But
stay on track
you're
with
saying
this question.
it hasn't. We have thousands of essentially motion pictures of people stuffing the ballot boxes.
But Mr.
Tens
President,
of
they're
thousands.
not stuffing the ballot boxes, and you've been told that by your top law enforcement officials. But let's stay on track because we have so much ground to cover.
You have
We
people that went
policy ground
and voted
to cover,
in one
Mr.
place,
President.
another place, as many as I understand, 28 different places in one day with 7, 8, 9 ballots apiece. They can't do anymore because it would look too phony. These were professional people. They were stuffing the ballot boxes. It's there. I mean, it's there to
You took
see.
your
A lot of
case
people
to
don't
court,
like looking at
60
it.
different cases all across the country. You lost that, but let's stay on track.
We lost
have
because the
so
judges
many-
didn't want to hear them.
Mr. President,
But if
so
this
many
if this
topics-
were ever before a court, we would win so so easy. There is so much evidence that the election was rigged. And you may not even put this section on your show, and you'll have to decide what you want to do. But people know it was rigged. Look, the media,
Mr.
when I
President,
first
there's
got
no
involved in
evidence of that.
politics,
As you know, there's no evidence of that. You have so many different topics.
tremendous evidence.
I want to talk about what a
Listen, let me ask you this.
Mr.
You agree
President-
there was Twitter files, right?
Mr. President,
You agree
Wait
there
a
were 51
minute.
intelligence
Hang
agents
on.
that lied. You
Who is interviewing who now? What the hell? They weren't lying. This motherfucker went off the rails, blood. Ooh, boy.
agree with
I'm
that.
not the one who's being interviewed. Let's
Well, no,
stay
but-
on track
no,
because
but
I want to talk about
that's rigging the election.
That's what voters want to hear about.
Not
Mr.
even
President.
10 minutes
Let's
in,
talk
and
about
the
what's
ring went
happening
off the
on Capitol
rails.
Hill
Go ahead.
right now.
Go
Speaker
ahead.
McCarthy.
Fam, if he listen, if he's on that debate stage in 10 days, man, we gonna have fun, boy. Let's go.
Announced that he was launching an impeachment inquiry this week into President Biden. Do you see this as a part of the retribution that you see?
No, not at all. I think, look, you look at the terrible things that have been happening with respect to Biden. Look at everything. Jamie Comer, Jim Jordan, who are fantastic people and very legitimate people. I watched Jamie Comer just a little while ago talking about a lot of different facets of what's going on. And he was the one that said, I guess there are 12 things where it looks like it's stone cold guilty. And the gun charge is only one of the 12. He said, this is the only one that doesn't implicate Joe Biden.
So, but my question for you, did you talk to Speaker McCarthy about this House impeachment?
No,
inquiry?
no, I
Did
don't
you
talk to him
tell
about
him that he should open a House
No, I don't
impeachment
do
inquiry?
that. I don't think he'd do that. I mean, he wouldn't do it based on me, no.
Did you
Not-
talk to your Republican allies on Capitol Hill and say you should support this?
No, I
impeachment
don't have to
inquiry?
talk. They're more proactive than I am. They think it's terrible. I will say this. They think I was treated very unfairly. I mean, when I was impeached for a perfect phone call, and now it turned out to be perfect. I hope you will admit that at least, because I was right, 100% right. But I was impeached for a perfect phone call. And how sad that is. And we had 196-0 vote for Republicans. Very unusual for the Republican Party. I was so proud of them. 196, the entire House, not one person dissented. And then other than Romney, who sort of gave me half a vote, but we had 100% in the Senate. People think I was treated very unfairly.
Well, the people who
And
voted
I know I was
the
treated.
people who voted for that impeachment say that the phone call that you referenced was about a quid pro quo.
It was perfect.
But-
My phone call was perfect. My phone call was saying, please investigate any crimes that you see. And by the way, I'm mandated to do that as president of the United States. And it was really a call to congratulate him on winning the election. But
Mr. President, let's
no, when you talk about quid pro quo, please don't talk about quid pro quo because there was none in the call at all. Where there's
That
a
was
quid
the
pro,
heart-
where
I'm
there
saying
is a
that was the
quid pro
heart of
quo
that
was when Biden said very strongly, we're not going to give them the $1 billion unless they get rid of the prosecutor. That's a quid pro quo.
Mr. President, let me take a step back here because a lot of voters say what they want to talk about right now is your vision for the future.
Sure.
And I've been traveling to a lot of the early voting states, and they say that your focus on the past is a problem for them. What do you say to those voters?
I have no focus on the past, except that you have to learn from history. You have to learn from the past. We had an election that was very, very terrible. It was a terrible thing for our country. And you have to learn from that. You can't forget that and just go, now, with all of the things that we said, I had the best economy maybe in
We're
history.
going to talk about it next.
Right.
So let's stay
I
on
had the
track.
best.
Bruh, stop talking about the election. They're literally telling you what they don't want to hear, and you're still talking about it. Bruh, you better listen to the people. The people are going to be the ones that get you back in office, not you and not your record. You better start listening to them. They need forward thinking. They need to hear how you're going to shut the border. They need to know how you're going to fix the economy. They need to know how you're going to fix the supply chains. They need to know how you're going to fix how you're going to set us up to fight BRICS. What is the plan for the future? Are you going to fall in line with the quote unquote elitist formula? That's what they need to know, sir. What are you going to do about these schools? What are you going to do about these agendas that are out of hand? That's what they need to know, sir. For us over here in intelligent Black society, how do you feel about reparations? Are you on board with having the conversation? That's what we need to hear, sir. I don't want to hear about this fucking election anymore. I done told you this the day you said you were going to run. I don't want to hear about the election anymore. That shit is over. Let's go. Forward thinking. Forward. Let's go. Jesus Christ.
Economy in history, and I'm going to do it again. I had the best energy. We were energy independent, soon to be energy dominant. Now we're begging for energy. I mean, what they've done to this country, they're destroying our country.
We're going to talk about the economy in just a minute. But before we move on from Capitol Hill, do you think Republican hardliners should abandon their threat to shut down the government over their spending priorities now that there is this impeachment?
No, I think if they don't get a fair deal, we have to save our country. We have $35 trillion in debt. We have to save our
So
country.
you would shut
there's-
down the government? You'd support that?
I'd shut down the government if they can't make an appropriate deal. Absolutely.
Okay, let's talk about the economy. And I want to start by talking about this big standoff between the auto workers and the big three auto manufacturers. My question for you, Mr. President, whose side are you on in this?
I'm on the side of making our country great. The auto workers are not going to have any jobs when you come right down to it, because if you take a look at what they're doing with electric cars, electric cars will be made in China. The auto workers are not going to have any. I'll tell you what, the auto workers are being sold down the river by their leadership, and their leadership should endorse Trump. The reason is You gotta have choice. Like in school, I want school choice. I also want choice for cars. If somebody wants gasoline, if somebody wants all electric, they can do whatever they want. But they're destroying the consumer and they're destroying the auto workers. The auto workers will not have any jobs, Kristen, because all of these cars are going to be made in China. The electric cars automatically are going to be made in China.
So let's talk about UAW's leadership. The president, Sean Fain, has withheld his endorsement of President Biden. But this is what he had to say about you. Quote, another Donald Trump presidency would be a disaster. How would you win that endorsement?
Well, if that's the case, I probably won't win his. I don't know the gentleman, but I know his name very well. And I think he's not doing a good job in representing his union because he's not going to have a union in 3 years from now. Those jobs are all going to be gone because all of those electric cars are going to be made in China. That's what's happening. Number one. Number two, the electric cars are much more expensive and they don't go far enough. So if somebody wants to take a little bit of a long, just like the trucks, if somebody wants to take a little bit of a long ride, let's go to Maine or let's go to Kentucky from New York. You can't do it. I mean, you have to stop all the time. They don't go far enough. They're very expensive. They have a lot of drawbacks. Now, with that being said, some people are going to want them. Some people are going to travel short distances. What they're doing with our trucking industry is a disaster because they want all electric trucks. And a truck with a large tank, large gasoline or diesel capacity can go up to 2,000 miles. An electric truck goes 300 miles. So what are these guys going to do? They're going to stop every.
Huh? What did you just say? Say that again.
What they're doing with our trucking industry is a disaster because they want all electric trucks. And a truck with a large tank, large gasoline or diesel capacity can go up to 2,000 miles. An electric truck goes 300 miles. So what are
On a tank of gas? Trump, on a full tank of gas, you trying to tell me a truck can go 2,000 miles? Is he serious right now? An electric can only go 300? Huh? No, this man did not just say what I think he just said. Tabernacle. He didn't just say what I think he just said, right? These are the leading trucks on the market. Chevy, GMC. Chevy and GMC. These are Americans. How the hell are you gonna go 2,000 miles on a 17 on a 17 mile per gallon truck? How? Explain this to me. I don't think he said what he just said. I hope he misspoke.
being said, some people are going to want them. Some people are going to travel short distances. What they're doing with our trucking industry is a disaster because they want all electric trucks. And a truck with a large tank, large gasoline or diesel capacity can go up to 2,000 miles. An electric truck goes 300 miles. So what are these guys going to do? They're going to stop every 300 miles and recharge their truck and spend 3 hours?
Let's move on and talk about another big picture issue when it comes to the economy. The issue of interest rates, inflation, something that you've talked a lot about.
Yeah.
The Federal Reserve is obviously independent, but I wonder, Mr. President, if you are re-elected, would you direct your Federal Reserve chair to lower interest rates?
Well, you know that I put a lot of pressure on him.
Okay.
It was outside pressure.
Okay, so I looked this up. He's talking about a semi. He's talking about a semi. A consumer truck. Everybody would have a truck then. They would never have to fill up. The petrol industry would be going into free fall. He's literally talking about a semi. And they take 150 gallons, between 110 and 150 gallons. And they said since they have 2 fuel tanks on a semi, you could go up to 250. An average is 6 miles per gallon on a flat surface. So you can go 1,500 miles. So they basically could do a run. Boy, okay, say less.
Because nobody knows whether or not you can really do that. But I did because I thought his interest rates were too high, and he ultimately dropped his interest rates. The same gentleman, as you know. But it was a lot of pressure. I mean, I was very active on that. Right now, interest rates are very high. They're too high. People can't buy homes. They can't do anything. I mean, they can't borrow money. The banks don't have the money. The banks aren't lending the money. The banks, by the way, Chase Manhattan Bank, Bank of America, they discriminate against conservatives. It's a disgrace, and they shouldn't be allowed to. And I'm going to do something about that. But you take a look at banks.
They also discriminate against black people, but you only worry about conservatives. Okay. Yeah. Let me see. Hey, I'm not knocking it. Hey, go after the banking industry. I'd love to see that war. That'd be great.
Banks throughout the country, and I think because of the regulators. But you take a look at Bank of America and Chase, they discriminate against conservatives and Republicans. We'll give you plenty of evidence.
Okay, all right. Well, let's stay on track with this question, though. So just to be very clear, if you were reelected, would you direct your Fed chair to lower interest rates?
It depends. It depends where inflation is. But I would get inflation down because drill we must. We will be drilling for oil. We're going to become, again, energy independent. We are going to reduce our debt because we're also going to become energy dominant. You know, we were ready to go dominant within a matter of months. We would have been making so much money. We have more oil. I call it liquid gold under our feet than any other country. Saudi Arabia, Russia. There's no country with more, and it's sweet. It's the finest. We have the.
That's correct. But sir, here's the problem. Even if we consume it, that still doesn't make us enough money. You make the money offloading it. BRICS wants to cut that pipeline, sir, to use a term. So where is this money going to come from? I'm just trying to figure something out. Unless you have a process where you can turn that into steel and other products that you can put on the market very quickly, I don't see how you're going to move that against BRICS. But okay, maybe you'll explain it. I cut you off. I'm sorry.
The best. You know, we're taking it from Venezuela. You know what it is? Tar. It's the worst.
Mr. President, are you going to appoint a new Fed chair if you're reelected?
Well, I guess he would have 2 years left or something like that. So we'll see.
Okay. All right.
You know the word jawboning? I did a lot of jawboning against him.
Jawboning.
Low interest rates. We had low interest rates. We had the best housing market ever. We had people buying homes. Today, people can't buy homes.
Economists are looking at some of the figures right now. The fact that the unemployment rate is at 3.8%. And they say it looks like the U.S. may not dip into a recession. What do you make of that assessment?
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, people are going to, they say that, and then you end up in a depression. They say you're going to do great, you end up bad, and the opposite. Most of them don't know what they're doing. It's a touch, it's a feel. And I predicted a lot of markets. I predicted a lot of things, frankly. You know, you say Trump was right about everything. I think that the way it's going now, you're going to have to, things are not going right now very well for the consumer. Bacon is up 5 times. Food is up horribly, worse than energy. Energy is starting to go up at a level that we haven't seen in a long time.
He's upset about his McDonald's cheeseburgers. The price is too high.
Meaning a couple of years since he took over, because I had energy prices very low. I had gasoline very low. We have to get the energy down, which they will never do. And they kept it artificial because they took these strategic reserves, which I had a lot to do with filling up for the first time ever. They took these strategic reserves and he issued it to everybody so that he could keep the gas prices down. Now, strategic reserves are at the lowest level they've ever been at, and we need that for war.
And there are a lot of factors that have contributed to
Well, no, the big factor is the fact that he took that oil.
Let's talk about taxes.
That and he wanted to have low gas prices for an election, and now we have nothing left.
Mr. President, there are a lot of factors, including global factors, that went into that. Let's talk about taxes, though.
I don't know why people stick up for him so much when he makes bad decisions.
I
don't know why. I have a lot of respect for you. You're very fair in the debate, but I don't know why you and other people say, "Oh, it's okay that he destroyed the strategic petroleum reserves." I mean, why do you do that? Or it's okay that he has open borders. Somebody was in your position, not quite as good, said this morning, "Oh, having open borders is a wonderful thing." I don't know why, and I think that's why the media has lost so much credibility.
We're just having a conversation. Let me talk to you about taxes and your differences with President Biden over taxes.
Sure.
He wants to raise corporate tax rates to 28%. It's reported you want to lower them to 15%. Is that true?
I'd like to lower them a little bit if we could, but what I want to do is we have to get some income coming in. You know, when I lower taxes, we took in more revenue.
To 15%?
You know that when it depends on where we are at the time. You know, a lot happens in a year. But when I lowered taxes, I cut taxes tremendously, created tremendous jobs. But more importantly, we had more revenue with lower taxes than we did with higher taxes.
You also added $8 trillion to the national debt. Your GOP challenger, Nikki Haley, made that point, saying, quote, "The truth is that Biden didn't do this to us. Republicans did this to us." Does she have a point?
We had a thing happen to us. We had the greatest economy in history, and then we got hit with COVID. And we had to keep this beautiful thing going. And if I didn't do that, if we didn't put some money in, nobody knew what COVID was. Remember, this was a new thing that came in. Somebody said it's dust coming in from China. It came from China. They tried and denied it, or they tried for a little while, and we didn't let it. It came from Wuhan, actually, which now they agree. Everybody's now agreeing that it came from Wuhan. I said that years ago. But we had to do things that were very severe. We had to let some money come out. We were on the verge of doing something that was amazing. We were going to have energy at a level bigger than Russia and Saudi Arabia combined. That energy was going to be sold to Europe and all other places. The prices would have come down. We were going to make a fortune, and we were going to start paying off debt. Instead, we got hit with COVID. People didn't need oil because nobody was driving all over the world. I mean, frankly, it was a disaster. What China did to the world with COVID is something that we're going to get to the bottom of, and they have to pay something back. You know, Nobody can pay back the cost of all those lives and all the money that was lost, but nobody can pay back the lives and all of the damage it was caused.
But to
including
Nikki
China.
Haley's
But you know what?
key argument,
They have
Mr.
to. They
President,
have to pay something back.
to Nikki
They have
Haley's
to do
key
something.
argument, though. What do you say to her?
What does Nikki Haley know? I mean, I know Nikki Haley very well. She said, I'm the greatest president. She left. She said, I'm the greatest president. Now she's running for office and she says something. Look, Nikki Haley doesn't know anything about it. She's a politician. She knows nothing about it. Very nice woman. Well,
Bro, you're a politician too, man. Oh, you got to be on the stage in 10 days, man. I need this. We need the content. I need to hear all this war. I need to see no new friends. I need this. Go ahead.
some people like that, I would say. But she left office. She said very strongly, I will never run. He was a great president. And then in some cases said the greatest president in my lifetime. In one case said the greatest president ever. Now she's running. Nikki Haley has nothing to do with this. We were going to make a fortune off our energy. We were going to send the energy to Europe. Europe was going to pay us tremendous amounts of money. And I'll tell you, you would have never had the Ukraine monster at all. It would have never happened. Russia would have never got, just by sheer force of personality. But beyond personality, what happened is when oil hit $100 a barrel, and by the way, it's right there right now again, Putin makes a fortune on this war. You know, everybody said, oh, he can't afford it. If Biden allowed my policies to stay in place, oil would right now be at $40 a barrel, and Putin wouldn't be able to afford them.
We are going to get to the war in Ukraine. But first, I do want to talk about the issue of abortion, which is important to a lot of voters all across the country. Just this week, women in Idaho and Tennessee, I don't know if you saw this, filed suit against their state saying their lives were put at risk after they were denied abortion services because their state's restrictive laws put in place after Roe was overturned. So my question for you, Mr. President, is how is it acceptable in America that women's lives are at risk, doctors are being forced to turn away patients in need, or risk breaking the law?
Ready? A little bit of a long answer. I hope you have time.
I hope you have time. I'm here for as
So
long
you
as
have Roe v. Wade. For 52 years, people, including Democrats, wanted it to go back to states so that states could make the right. Roe v. Wade, I did something that nobody thought was possible, and Roe v. Wade was terminated, was put back to the states. Now, people, pro-lifers, have the right to negotiate for the first time. They had no rights at all. Because the radical people on this are really the people, the Democrats, that say after 5 months, 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, 9 months, and even after birth, you're allowed to terminate the baby.
Democrats aren't saying that. I just have to, Democrats are not saying that.
Of course
That's
they do.
not true.
You have a Virginia governor.
Ma'am, they actually said that. You had the liberals outside saying that. You literally had them saying that. The fuck? How do y'all forget this? I mean, Trump's an asshole, but you know what? Shout out to him. He must eat a lot of fish. That was actually true.
Previous governor, who said after the baby is born, you will make a determination, and if you want, you will kill that baby. The baby is now born.
Democrats writ large are not talking about that. Only 1% of late-term abortions happen always in the state.
They are the radical people.
Ma'am, who is the voting base of the Democrats? Oops. I get it. Y'all don't want to acknowledge the liberals who are running the party. You know, the ultra left and the progressives. I understand y'all don't want to give them shine until it's necessary. But let's tell the truth. It was them, and they need the votes, so the politicians kowtow to them. They literally said this in New York. After the baby's born, you can kill it. They literally said that. But all right. You're right. Maybe I have to go pull up the abortion map again. We'll see how I feel.
Because nobody wants to see abortion after 5 months and 6 months and 7 months. And now it gave people that believe in pro-life. Look, just so you understand, it's pretty much 50-50. It's a 50-50 issue. Amazing. If you look at the charts, it's been 49, 51. It's been like that for many years. It goes both ways. 51, both ways. Ready? I was able to do something which gave at least pro-life people a voice. Now it's going to work out. Now the number of months will be determined, and you're going to have something where everybody comes together.
Does it bother you, though, that women say their lives are being put at risk? Do you feel you bear any responsibility? Because as you say, you are responsible.
What's going to happen, this is an issue that's been going on for a long time, and it's a very polarizing issue. Because of what's been done, and because of the fact we brought it back to the states, we're going to have people come together on this issue. They're going to determine the time, because nobody wants to see 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 months. Nobody wants to see abortions when you have a baby in the womb. I said, with Hillary Clinton, when we had the debate, I made a statement, rip the baby out of the womb in the 9th month. You're allowed to do that, and you shouldn't be allowed to do that.
Again, no one is arguing for that. That's not a part of anyone's platform.
The Democrats.
Okay, I'm going to have to pull it up.
Democrats are able to kill the baby after birth.
Let me talk to you.
Nobody wants that.
Democrats don't want that.
So we're going to come together.
I want to know what you want. I want to know what you're going to do if you're.
We are going to
come
come
together. Would you sign
together.
federal legislation that would ban abortion at 15 weeks?
No, let me just tell you what I do. I'm going to come together with all groups, and we're going to have some.
Okay. Kristen, here's your map. Now, this is just what they gathered and said that how the states are operating now. Down here in Georgia, they're very restrictive. They have some wiggle room. The most restrictive: West Virginia, Indiana, Wisconsin, North Dakota, South Dakota, Idaho, Texas, Oklahoma, most of the South, South Carolina. New York is very protective. Oregon is the most protective of abortion rights. Only state to be so. Kristen, you said that nobody said that abortions could happen at 9 months. I'm pretty sure New York, people in New York said that was cool. What is this? New York passes law allowing abortions at any time a mother's health is at risk. Again, that's at the doctor's discretion. How do we know the doctor ain't radical? Then they try to lie and say it does not allow abortion up until birth. Right. But Snopes says it passed a law allowing abortions after 24 weeks if the mother's health is at risk or there's absence of fetal viability. Again, you gave him a lot of wiggle room. So, yeah. I'm going to need you not to lie like that. Maybe you didn't remember. You should have taken a break and, Googled that real fast. I'm just saying.
Something that's acceptable. Right now, to my way of thinking, the Democrats are the radicals. Because after 4 and 5 and 6 months, but you have to say this, after birth, you have New York State and other places that pass legislation where you're allowed to kill the baby after birth.
Mr. President, I want to give voters who are going.
Kind of wrong, Trump. Come on, you gotta get the talking points right. You gotta tell the whole story. Gotta tell the whole story. If there's no fetal viability or a risk to the mother's health, but again, like I said, you could get a radical doctor just to do it and lie. How are they gonna know?
To be weighing in on this election,
yeah,
a very clear sense of.
I think they're all going to like me. I think both sides are going to like me. What's going to have to happen is you're going to have to. Listen, you're asking me a question. What's going to happen is you're going to come up with a number of weeks or months. You're going to come up with a number that's going to make people happy, because 92% of the Democrats don't want to see abortion after a certain period of time.
If a federal ban landed on your desk, if you were reelected, would you sign at 15?
Are you talking about a complete ban?
A ban at 15 weeks.
Well, people are starting to think of 15 weeks. That seems to be a number that people are talking about right now.
Would you sign that?
I would sit down with both sides and I'd negotiate something, and we'll end up with peace on that issue for the first time in 52 years. I'm not going to say I would or I wouldn't. I mean, DeSantis is willing to sign a 5-week and 6-week ban.
Would you support that? You think
I think what he did is a terrible thing and a terrible mistake. But we'll come up with a number. But at the same time, Democrats won't be able to go out in 6 months, 7 months, 8 months and allow an abortion. And Kristen, you have to look at this, because you said no. You have some states that are allowed to kill the child after birth, and you can't allow that.
But Mr. President, again, no one is calling for a child to be killed after birth. No one's calling for that.
But you have legislation.
But let me just ask
Kristen, you have legislation in certain states where it's allowed.
Mr. President,
the governor of Virginia, previous governor, who was a whack job, I call him the Michael Jackson governor.
No one's talking about
what the hell? Michael Jackson governor? What the hell? What does that mean?
Child after birth, and you can't allow that.
But Mr. President, again, no one is calling for a child to be killed after birth. No one's calling for that.
But you have legislation.
But let me just ask
you have legislation in certain states where it's allowed.
Mr. President,
the governor of Virginia, previous governor, who was a whack job, I call him the Michael Jackson governor.
No one's talking
that
about
governor.
I want to know what
that governor said you can kill the baby after birth.
Mr. President, this is about what you would do.
What does that? Hey, can somebody translate that? What does that mean, Michael Jackson governor? I don't know what that means. What does that mean? Huh? Are you talking about Northam? Oh God. So he did an inappropriate moonwalk in that. Okay. So that's why you call him that. All right. I didn't know what the hell he was talking about. So because Northam did a a moonwalk. Trump is a fucking Trump is a funny guy, boy.
You were reelected. As you know, you upset.
We will agree to a number of weeks, which will be where both sides will be happy. We have to bring the country together on this issue.
Mr. President, when you talk about negotiating, I think a lot of people think to themselves, this is an issue that they care about
I care
deeply
about it
in
too.
their hearts.
Oh, I care
They
about it
know
too.
where they stand, and they want to know where you stand. As you know, some anti-abortion groups are really looking for some clarity from you. So let me just ask you to put a fine point on this. Should the federal government impose any abortion restrictions, or should it be completely left up to the states?
No, I don't think you should have. I don't think you should be allowed to have abortions well into a pregnancy.
But what about the question I
We're going
just
to
asked you?
agree. No, we're going to agree to a number of weeks or months or however you want to define it, and both sides are going to come together, and both sides, and this is a big statement, both sides will come together, and for the first time in 52 years, you'll have an issue that we can put behind us.
At the federal level?
It could be state or it could be federal. I don't frankly care.
So you're not committed to a ban at the
I
federal
will say this:
level.
everybody, including the great legal scholars, love the idea of Roe v. Wade terminated so it be brought back to the states.
It sounds like that's what you think too, that
Well,
it should remain a state
I would
issue.
say this from a pure standpoint, from a legal standpoint, I think it's probably better, but I can live with it either way. It's much more important. The number of weeks is much more important. But something will happen with the number of weeks, the amount of time after which you can't do it. And you know what? The most powerful people that are anti-abortion are okay with that now. And you know what? They weren't okay with that even a year ago.
Your former Vice President, Mike Pence, believes that a fetus should have constitutional rights. Do you believe that, Mr.
Well, Mike
President?
Pence said something about 15 weeks too, which was a big change for Mike Pence because Mike Pence had no exceptions. I have exceptions, by the way. I think people should have exceptions. I think if it's rape or incest or the life of the mother, I think you have to have exceptions.
Does a fetus have constitutional rights,
And
Mr.
a lot of
President?
people, when they don't have exceptions. Now, I will tell you that I think most people, most Republicans are willing. You go life of the mother, rape, incest. I think most of them are there.
But should a
That's a
fetus
big
have
statement.
constitutional rights, Mr. President?
Well, I don't know what he's saying because before he wanted, you couldn't have abortion.
what are
at all.
you saying?
Now all of
What
a
do you
sudden, excuse me. Now all of a sudden he's saying 15 weeks. I said, wow, where did that come from? That's a radical change. Look, something is going to happen that's going to be good for everybody, and that's what I'm almost like a mediator in this case. They wanted Roe v. Wade terminated because it was inappropriate. We got it done. Something is going to happen. It's going to be a number of weeks. Something's going to happen where both sides are going to be able to come together, and then we'll be able to go into other things like the economy, our military.
Are you saying a federal ban with exceptions? Is that what you're saying?
What I say is very simple because you can't put words in my mouth like that.
I
Because
just
you
wanna-
can talk about this issue, and I think talk about it very productively. It could be a state ban. It could be a federal ban. But Democrats want that too. Democrats don't want to see abortion in the 7th month. Okay, I speak to a lot of Democrats. They want a number. There is a number, and there's a number that's going to be agreed to. And Republicans should go out and say the following, because I think Republicans speak very inarticulately about this subject. I watch some of them without the exceptions, et cetera, et cetera. I said, other than certain parts of the country, you're not going to win on this issue, but you will win on this issue when you come up with the right number of weeks, because Democrats don't want to be radical on the issue. Most of them, some do. They don't want to be radical on the issue. They don't want to kill a baby in the 7th month or the 9th month or after birth. And they're allowed to do that. And you can't do that.
That's going to be very interesting on the 27th. That is going to be a great question when that comes up. I want to say that. Blacklight, hello. If I will say anything and believe it was a person, if I will say to believe it was a person, it'd be Trump. Nice. Be Black first. Hello. To the guy, 5 girl. Hello. Eddie Long's hello. Yeah, this is. I like this. Go ahead. I don't know. Hey, question. I know. I kind of stopped it, but before I started again, what do y'all think of Kristen as a interviewer? Is she good? I mean, she did the second debate last year. I'm guessing this is why she got this promotion, because they like how she was going off. But how do y'all feel about her? Is she worthy? I guess what I'm asking is, where the Smash Bros at? Y'all smashing? What's up? Let me know in the chat. Girls, you can answer too. Y'all smashing or nah? I know she got a ring on, but y'all smashing? All right.
I have a very robust foreign policy section to get to.
Okay.
I do want to give you an opportunity to talk about some of your legal challenges. So if we could do that first, and then we'll move on
Sure.
to foreign policy. You are facing 4 indictments.
Biden
91
indictments, excuse me, Biden political indictments. He said to the
He has
Attorney
said he's had
General,
nothing to do
he
with
said
it.
to the
There's no
Attorney
proof of
General,
that.
indict him. They put in the
There's
New
no
York
proof of
DA
that,
case,
Mr.
which
President.
everybody
There's
admits
no
isn't even the
proof of
case.
that, Mr.
Excuse me,
President.
they're
No,
Biden
there's no
indictments.
proof of that.
You know what? He started something that's a very slippery slope. He said, I've got a guy that's beating me in the polls. I'm beating all the Republicans by a lot, and I'm beating him by a lot. I have somebody that's beating me in the polls. Indict him. And they, not only that, they took their top person in the Department of Justice and put him into the Manhattan DA's office. They're dealing with Fannie Willis all the time.
Mr. President,
These
the
are
Attorney
political
General
indictments.
appointed a special counsel to investigate you, President Biden, and President Biden's son Hunter, who was also indicted today. But I do want to
President Biden
move.
does not fall within the Presidential Records Act. And frankly, you don't ever hear anything about the special counsel. But they gave me this deranged person named Jack Smith. He's a deranged lunatic.
JB Easy, hello. You said bed wench. I had to go look. Fam, why does her husband look like Philip Seymour Hoffman? Why does her husband look like the bad guy from Mission Impossible 3? Her husband looks like the bad guy from Mission Impossible 3. God, dog. He looked like he hid the rabbit's foot from the IMF, the Impossible Mission Force, and they had to go to Hong Kong, and Ethan had to go get it and then escape the building.
I fall within the Presidential Records Act. It's very simple. It's a civil thing. In fact, the New York Times, of all institutions, did a story, and it was headlined, "Please, please, please, Mr. President, could we take a look at the documents?" And they said in the story that the only way you can get documents from a president is if you go there and say please, because this is civil. And they won't even have a lawsuit. They may have a civil lawsuit at most, but they probably don't even have a civil lawsuit. And this should never have been an indictment. There's no criminal. Now, there is criminal for Joe Biden because he was a senator and he was a vice president.
Well, the charges
And
are
as a
facing don't
senator
have
and
anything
vice
to do with the
president,
Presidential Records Act. But let me ask my question so we can get to foreign
wait a
policy.
minute, this comes
Let's-
within the Presidential Records
Let me
Act.
ask.
That's what it's about.
Let me
It's
just
not
ask these questions, and then we can move on to some other topics.
So you still didn't let out the 9/11 stuff, even though you promised you were going to do it. So I'm going to need you to reconcile that. All right.
You are facing 4 indictments, 91 felony
If you
charges.
would say it properly, I'm facing 4 Biden indictments. He told the Justice Department to indict him, or Merrick Garland said, let's indict him.
Let me ask you this, Mr.
They
President.
indicted their political
I
opponents.
just want to hear from you on this. I want to know what's in your head. When you go to jail, do you worry about going?
Lady, are you ready to go down that rabbit hole? You want to know what's in Trump's head? Oh, Lord. Do you really want to go in Trump's head? Okay. I can help you.
No medicine, there'd be no mayonnaise. No medicine, there'd be no mayonnaise. No medicine, there'd be no mayonnaise. No medicine, there'd be no mayonnaise.
Since you need to know what's in Trump's head. Oh, man. Not the Adderall. I'm talking Ritalin. Yo, he looked tired as fuck. This motherfucker. Yoshimori said he looked like Fred from Scooby-Doo. God, dog. Son, wait a minute. Hang on. Y'all not finna do this. Wait a minute. Look at this dude. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Owen Davian. Come on, bruh. Y'all not finna do this. Not tonight. Fuck it. We gonna do it. Excuse me. Y'all gonna have me choking and laughing. Stop it. Y'all gonna tell me that man do not look like this? Come on. Stop it. He do. Come on. That is goddamn Owen Davian. Stop it. It's Owen Davian. Come on. We not doing this tonight, family. Come on. Come on. Y'all not telling me this don't look like Owen Davian. Come on. Shit. Back to Trump, though. Oh, God, no. That's fucking Owen Davian. Y'all trying to tell me some bullshit. Don't lie.
To jail?
No, I don't really. I don't even think about it. I'm built a little differently, I guess, because I have had people come up to me and say, "How do you do it, sir? How do you do it?" I don't even think about it. These are corrupt people that I'm dealing with. They're destroying our country. I don't even think about it. All I think about is making the country great, making America great. Look, these are political. These are banana republic indictments. These are third world indictments.
What
The president of
y'all hear this man? How? What do you mean third world indictments? What is this? Yo. Yo, Trump is a funny mug. He a funny man, boy. The shit that comes out of his mouth. Hey. Oh no, 225. That's the makeup. That's the makeup. You know who he look like? You know, I ain't gonna hold you. You know what he look like? Let me see if they got it. I bet you Google probably don't have it. I wish I could play it, but I know they hit me with copyright. Let me see if I can find it. Shit, they don't have a picture. Who remember the show Perfect Strangers? Yeah, I remember that episode when Balky and Larry went to go get the goddamn. Here it is. They got the picture. That what Trump look like. This is what Trump look like, bruh. That what he look like. I ain't gonna hold you. That what he look like. Yo, why is his face always orange, but his eyes are always white? He looked like a creamsicle. I didn't even mean to make these jokes. It's just funny observations here. He looked like cousin Larry and Balky when they went to tanning bed and they were in there too long and they fell asleep and they got all burnt up and shit. What the fuck? Oh my God, no. Come on, Trump. What are we doing? Come on, Kristen. Let's get to the show. I need this to go off the rails some more. Come on.
the United States sees how we're doing. We have a movement, the likes of which has never happened in this country before. And you see it with the polls. I mean, I'm up on these people by 60 points and 59 points. I don't mean I'm at 59. I'm leading them by 59. You almost say, like, why are they campaigning? Asa Hutchinson, he's at 0. Christie's at 2. Other ones are at 1. DeSanctimonious is at 9. I mean, I'm leading him by.
Wait, what do you? Wait, say that again.
I'm at 59. I'm leading them by 59. You almost say, like, why are they campaigning? Asa Hutchinson, he's at 0. Christie's at 2. Other ones are at 1. DeSanctimonious is at 9. I just see a poll coming. I mean, I'm leading him by 60 points.
Mr. President.
And you say, why are they doing it? But here's what they did. They saw this happening. And he went to the Attorney General of the United States and he told them, indict Trump.
There's just no evidence of that,
Oh,
Mr.
why?
President.
Because you mean
But let's stay on
look at all the lies he's
Mr.
told.
President, I want to talk
Kristen,
about
wait a minute. Wait. Could I say one thing? Look at all the lies he's told over the last couple of weeks. He said he was at the World Trade Center and he wasn't. He said he flew airplanes, right? He didn't. He said he drove trucks and he didn't. Everything he says is like a lie. It's terrible.
Mr. President,
Even his handicap
I
golf,
wanna
he said
stay-
he's a 6. He's not a 6.
I want to stay focused on you.
Bruh,
For the purposes of
how does
debate,
this man?
Because
Who
it's
is
important
this
that we hear
man?
from you about all of this. Tell
Well, I'd
me-
like you to, but
Trump, bruh, you be lying too. Come on. You be lying too, Trump. Come on. It's okay. We all lie. You just lie every goddamn day. Hey, JB Easy. Hey, I fuck with you, fam. You know you done started some shit, right? Hey, JB Easy, you know you started some shit, right? Hey, family, blame JB Easy for this. Hey, JB Easy.
Oh, I know I don't think I see what I'm seeing, what I'm thinking.
Don't do this. Oh, JV Easy, you be starting some shit.
And folk, don't white people off their mind.
Back to Trump, JB Easy. Why did you do that?
Keep interrupting me.
Tell me, Mr. President, tell me what you see when you look at your mugshot.
I see somebody that loves this country in me, that loves this country. I see tremendous unfairness. I think very few people would have been able to handle what I handled. When I was coming down the escalator with Melania, I was already under investigation because they saw how well I was doing in the polls. And it just got worse and worse. And we caught them. We said they were spying on our campaign. It turned out to be true. They had the fake dossier. That turned out to be true. It was paid for by the Democrat Party. It was all fiction. All of these things happened. Impeachment hoax number 1, impeachment hoax number 2. I've been treated very badly, and I've won every single time. When you say, do I sleep? I sleep. I sleep because I truly feel that in the end, we're going to win. I think we're going to win an election the likes of which nobody's ever seen before. I don't think anything's going to stop it. Nothing's going to stop it because people see what's happened to our country. We're not respected in the world. Look at other countries. Look at what's happened. Everybody's going to the side of China, Russia, Saudi Arabia.
We're going to talk about that.
No,
Mr. President,
China
I want to delve into foreign
world.
policy, but let's get through this. And then I want to talk to you about all of those issues you just talked about, Mr. President. By the way, do you think your former chief of staff, Mark Meadows, is still loyal to you? He just pleaded not guilty.
Well, I hope he's loyal to me. I mean,
do you worry about him flipping?
Do you worry I didn't do anything wrong.
Okay, let's talk about Georgia. I want to talk about that phone call that you made to Georgia's Secretary of State, a Republican, Brad Raffensperger.
That was even more perfect than my call to
let's talk about it.
The president of Ukraine.
Okay.
It was a perfect call. Just before you start, many top legal scholars, almost everyone, but many top have analyzed that phone call. That was a phone call made in front of, I guess, 7 or 8 lawyers. Brad Raffensperger, the head, who, by the way, last week said, I didn't do anything wrong. He said that was a negotiation. Brad Raffensperger, who I was dealing with, I appreciate that he said that, but he said last week, I didn't do anything wrong.
Let's talk about it so we can move on.
No,
you said in the
let
call.
me just tell you one other thing. When I spoke, I knew I was probably being taped. I didn't ask, but I knew I was probably being taped. You know, they illegally tape me because they tape me in Florida. It's a 2-party state. You know that, right? So they illegally taped the call. But forget about that for a second. I knew that there were many lawyers on the phone from the other side. There were many people. There were many people on the phone. When I told them, I said the election was rigged. I said all sorts of things about the election, which I believe it 100%.
They told you
I have all the facts. Look, I have all the facts. In one way, I looked for a trial because it was so dishonest, okay, so rigged, and such a dangerous thing for our country.
Bro, okay, you want to go to trial? Hey, say less. Nah, Ricky Jones, he ain't gonna lose the election with this interview. Nah. We gonna find out on the 27th where he stands on things when he's pressed, and he's gonna have all his detractors and his opponents on the stage. We gonna see. The stage is perfect for him. He's gonna be on that debate stage. He's gonna be sitting there in California, the liberal bastion, and he gonna have ramen noodles, DeSatan, Nikki Haley, Tim Scott, I think qualified. Mike Pence, I think might have qualified. I want to see how he gonna perform. I want to see this. I want to see Trump versus Ramaswamy. I need this. I need him to fold that man. I think if Trump folds him, he's out. That's what I'm hoping for. And we're going to be here for it because right now it looks like I'll be able to stream it that day. So keep your fingers crossed. But go ahead.
We have to have borders and we have to have fair elections. We have neither.
But I want to talk about the border. I want to talk about the border, but we have to
when I spoke in front of Brad Raffensperger, who again last week said I didn't do anything wrong.
Well, it sounded like you were asking for him to come up with 11,000 votes.
No, and you know that. You're terrible when you say this. You're off to a bad start. What I said is very simple. I got cheated in this election.
He told you.
And all I need is like 11,000, whatever the number was.
Brad Raffensperger, who's a Republican, said you didn't get.
Well, he said that, but we have to go and see. You know, there's some court cases out there. We want to go into Fulton County and we want to see the real votes. And it's so hard.
He said they looked into it. The election had been certified 3 times.
I want them. I want to look into it. I would say that if we got access to the votes, which we're close to getting in court, as you know, if we got access to those votes, if we look in, you will find numbers that you wouldn't believe. More importantly, though, let me just say this.
I want to get through this, Mr.
Kristen, you have to just hear me out for 1 second.
Foreign policy section.
We had, because you say something and then you want to go into the next subject. We had many people in the line. When I said, I spoke for an hour. I knew that many people were in the line. I knew that it was who I happen to be a really smart person. Who is going to be talking badly when I have lawyers and many other people on the line? Nobody's going to say something bad. But if it was bad, why didn't they say, sir, that was very inappropriate of you to say? Nobody said that. Nobody said, sir. It was only a long time after the call that somebody said, oh, maybe he said something wrong.
They said, sir, there's no evidence.
This is a hoax, just like Russia, just like Ukraine. So let me tell you, I spoke to them on the phone, and it was left, I think, something to the effect, okay, we'll get together tomorrow. Nobody said, sir, you shouldn't speak. If I said something incorrect, one of the lawyers for the state of Georgia, which I love, one of those lawyers would have said, sir, you have to take that back. That's an inappropriate
The
statement.
Republican Secretary
Nobody
of State said there was no evidence to fraud. He said he'd looked into it. The election had been certified 3 times
You're
when he made
talking
that
about a
call.
different subject. If I said something wrong on the call, he or one of his many lawyers that were on the call would have said, it's inappropriate what you just said. Nobody said that. We had a normal phone call.
They said there's
This
no
became-
evidence of fraud.
He also said, I did nothing wrong last week.
Do you have any regrets about that call?
No,
Whatsoever.
None whatsoever.
Okay.
I called to complain about an election,
Okay.
and I have every right to do that.
Let me-
You say, do you think I have a right to complain about an election?
You have a right to take your case to court, which you did 60 times.
No, I
And you
didn't do
didn't
60 times. They wouldn't hear it based on all sorts of crazy. They wouldn't hear. We never got a trial. Judges would look at stuff, say, I'm not getting involved. They didn't want to get involved.
Let's keep moving so we get through.
If
all
you
of it.
take a look at the evidence, we have so much evidence. If you take a look at the evidence, even you, I could convince.
You were going to do a press conference, but you never did with the evidence.
No, because I'm using it in my court cases.
Okay. I want to ask you about the case.
Oh, man. Oh, man, I hope I hit the lotto tomorrow, man, so I can be home and stream that court case. This guy is great. He's such a wealth of content. I should have grifted 4 years ago. I should have. Hell, I should have grifted from 2016. Shit.
Bro, what you on?
Bullshit.
Related to Mar-a-Lago. A new charge suggests you asked a staffer to delete security camera footage so it wouldn't get into the hands of investigators. Did you
It's
do
false.
that? It's false.
But let me tell you.
Would you testify to that under oath?
I'll testify.
Would you testify to that under oath?
It's a fake charge by this deranged lunatic prosecutor who lost in the Supreme Court 9-0, and he tried to destroy lots of lives. He's a lunatic. So it's a fake charge. But more importantly, the tapes weren't deleted. In other words, there was nothing done to them. And they were my tapes. I could have fought them. I didn't even have to give them the tapes, I don't think. I think I would have won in court. When they asked for the tapes, I said, sure, they're my tapes. I could have fought them. I didn't even have to give them. Just so you understand, though, we didn't delete anything. Nothing was deleted.
So that's false. The people who
Well,
testified.
number one, the statement is false. Much more importantly, when the tapes came and everybody says this, they weren't deleted. We gave them 100%.
Okay. Let's
And just so you know, I offered them. I said, if you want to look at tapes, you can look at them.
let's move on to January 6th and the allegations that you tried to subvert the election. And again, I just want to give you a chance to talk about this because voters want to hear about this. The most senior lawyers in your own administration and on your campaign told you that after you lost more than 60 legal challenges, that it was over. Why did you ignore them and decide to listen to a new outside group?
Because I didn't respect them.
You hired them.
Lawyers, that doesn't mean you hire them. You never met these people. You get a recommendation. They turn out to be rhinos or they turn out to be not so good. In many cases, I didn't respect them, but I did respect others. I respected many others that said the election was rigged. Look, we have many people, and it's my choice. I happen to know that the election was rigged. Okay, I know it because I have there's so much proof.
Bro.
Stuffing. You know,
Bruh, stop saying that, man. Save it for the court case. Damn. I get it. You might think you have the smoking gun that says you didn't do it. Shut up. When you have the smoking gun, you're supposed to shoot it where most people will see it and feel it. You saying this constantly, it diminishes its impact. Shut up. Damn it. This guy just keep talking about this stupid ass election. What are you going to do about bricks? That's what I want to know. Are you for reparations? Are you willing to have the conversation? That's what I want to know. The fuck? I don't care about the 2020. I don't care. Let's go. Let's get to the show.
it's amazing. Right just a little while ago, in terms of the modern history, where the 51 intelligence agents said very specifically, they lied. They all lied. And they said about the laptop that it was Russia disinformation. That was a lie. That had a huge impact on the election. In fact, the pollsters say over 10 points. I didn't need 10 points. I needed 1/10 of a point. If you take a look at the Twitter files with the FBI and Twitter dealing, that had a huge impact on the election. Just those things. But in addition to
When you
that,
say you need-
you have ballot stuffing. You have a lot of.
When you say you needed 1/10 of a point, you needed 1/10 of a
I
point
needed a very
to
small. I
win?
think somebody said 22,000 votes.
To win?
Yeah. If you divide it among the states, it was 22,000 votes, something to that effect.
To
Yeah.
win the election?
Yeah, if I would have had another 22,000 votes over the whole. But look, they rigged the election. If you look at
But
Pennsylvania,
Mr.
if
President,
you
you're
look at
saying
all
you
this
needed more
stuff-
votes to win the election. Are you
Excuse me.
acknowledging you
If
didn't
you
win?
look at all of the statistics, all of the votes, they say 22,000 votes, over millions and millions of votes, 22,000 votes. So when they do Twitter files, or when they have 51 intelligence agents come out and lie that the laptop from hell was Russia disinformation, and now they find out it's not, but they knew that at the time. They cheated on the election in that way too.
I just want to be clear, though. Are you saying you needed those votes in order to win? Are you acknowledging you didn't win?
I'm not acknowledging. No, I say I won the election.
Okay. even though, again, your lawyers told you you did not.
No.
Did you? Just let me
Some
understand.
people told me that,
Okay.
but many people told me the opposite.
So you called some of your outside lawyers. You said they had crazy theories. Why were you listening to them? Were you listening to them because they were telling you what you wanted to hear?
You know who I listened to myself? I saw what happened. I watched that election, and I thought the election was over at 10 o'clock in the evening.
You were listening to your instincts.
My instincts are a big part of it. That's been the thing that's gotten me to where I am, my instincts. But I also listen to people. There are many lawyers. I could give you many books. There are books that are written on how the election was rigged. There are numerous books that were written on how the election was
Just to
rigged.
be clear, were you listening to your lawyer's advice or were you listening to your own instincts?
I was listening to different people, and when I added it all up, the election was rigged. There are books
Jesus
written-
Christ.
In fact, Molly Hemingway wrote a good book called Rigged.
Shots ultimately-
Jesus Christ. So he added 7 + 7 and said, hey, I lost the election. It was rigged. Man. Hello. Who mans is this? Oh no.
Molly Hemingway, who's highly respected and great, she wrote a book, a best-selling book called Rigged.
Were you calling the shots, though, Mr. President, ultimately?
As to whether or not I believed it was rigged, oh, sure, it was my decision. But I listened to some people. Some people said that. Like guys like Bill Barr, he was a stiff, but he wasn't there at the time. But he didn't do his job because he was afraid. You know what he was afraid of? He was afraid of being impeached. He was petrified to be impeached. And how do you not get impeached? Don't do anything.
We've heard so much, Mr. President, about that day, the actual day of January 6th, from other people. But quite frankly, we haven't heard from you about your own perceptions of how that day unfolded. You preferred to talk about the rally. And I'm curious about what happened when you got back to the White House. I know you spent most of the day in the dining room. What were you doing in there? How were you watching it unfold?
So let me just tell you about January 6th. First of all, I had very little to do with January 6th. I was asked to speak. And I was the president of the United States. I'm allowed to do that. But I was asked to speak. Other groups, I think it was women's groups, a lot of people were involved in that. And it was incredible. It was incredible. It was, I think, the largest group I've ever spoken. You never see that. You never see pictures of the group that I was speaking to. I think it was the most people, and I've spoken to some very large groups. Hundreds of thousands of people were there. And it was a beautiful, beautiful sight. But just so you understand, I went and I spoke. And by the way, peacefully and patriotically, and all of that, which wasn't reported. But when I spoke, I have had senators go up. They said, I've never heard you speak so moderately. You were very moderate.
What happened when you got back to the White House?
Well, wait, let me just say. So I spoke. And then I went back. I wanted to go down peacefully.
Wait a minute. I like the way she just looked just there.
I have had senators go up. They said, I've never heard you speak so moderately. You were very moderate.
What happened when you got back to the White House?
Well, wait, let me just
That's okay.
say.
All right, lady.
So I spoke. And then I went back. I wanted to go down peacefully and patriotically to the Capitol. Secret Service, who I have great respect for, said, sir, it's better if you don't do that. It could be unsafe because they didn't because of riots, because, it takes one guy with bad intentions. Okay. So I didn't have a dispute with them. You had that.
But that was your people. You should have felt safe. You should have been safer with them than the Secret Service. Oh, okay.
One person said, I grabbed the man around the neck. Actually, I wish I was so strong to be able to do that. These are all tough guys, smart guys.
Dispute that account.
Dispute it? Who wouldn't dispute it? She's the craziest account I've ever heard. You mean that I was in the Beast? And she said, I was in the Beast. And the Secret Service didn't win. So I took a guy who was like a black belt in karate and grabbed his neck and tried to choke him.
What happened?
How ridiculous. Just so you understand. And I have great respect for Secret Service, by the way. They're fantastic. The Secret Service said, sir, it would be better if you did. And I said, I'd love to do it. They said it would be better. And so we went back to the White House. Just so you understand. I spoke. I made a very nice speech. I wasn't Maxine Waters that calls for people's death. And some of these, take a look at what these other people say.
What
It's
happened
so
when you got
ridiculous.
to the White House, though? Where did you watch all
Let
of
me
the
tell you,
events
much more
unfold?
importantly, I offered 2 days before, 2 or 3 days before, 10,000 soldiers, right? And they were going to go because everybody was telling me, I knew it was big in terms of the crowd, because everybody I spoke to said, hey, I'm going down on January 6th. I'm going down. I'm going to listen to your speech, etc. And there are other speakers. I wasn't the only speaker. There were many speakers. But wait a minute. I offered 10,000 people to the mayor of Washington, D.C., Nancy Pelosi, both of them, Nancy Pelosi and to the mayor of Washington. And they turned it down flat. And the police commissioner was very nasty about it to her. And he testified. And here's what happened. The January 6th unselect committee of thugs and horrible people, the unselect committee destroyed all the evidence.
They say they didn't do that. We did ask them. We did ask the January 6th committee.
Well, they announced that they destroyed and deleted most of the evidence.
They say some of the evidence is still under review. I want to know what.
Wait.
I want to know about your perspective, Mr.
Wait,
President.
Kristen, they put out an announcement that they destroyed the evidence, and they destroyed all the stuff having to do with Nancy Pelosi, and they wouldn't let her testify. We said, why isn't she testifying? It was a whole rigged deal. Why isn't she testifying? I offered them 10,000 soldiers. She turned them.
I want to know
You know
what
that
you
she's in
did on
charge of
that day.
security.
I want to know. You're the president of the United
Kristen,
States.
she's in charge of
Tell me
security.
how you watched this all unfold. Were you in the dining room watching TV?
I'm not going to tell you. I'll tell people later at an appropriate time. Just so you understand, however.
What did you
And
do
I
when
made
the
beautiful
Capitol was
statements.
under attack, though?
Let me
Mr.
just tell
President?
you.
In the moment that the
Did
Capitol
you
was
see
under
the statements I made in the office and just outside of the Oval Office?
Absolutely. I
Go
was there
home.
that day.
Our police are great. We love our police. We love everybody. Go home.
That was
this was
that
a
was
beautiful
that was at
statement.
4 o'clock
Well,
in the
that statement was
afternoon,
made,
more than
I don't know,
3 hours after the
but there were
attacks
tweets
started.
that were
Mr.
put out
President.
before that.
Huh? Lady, what is she talking? Oh, okay. Lady. Let's see if she's right. Maybe she's right, because fuck it. Far be it from me to say that she's wrong. I mean, despite the fact that I was on the ground that day, but okay. All right, sure. Let's see if you're right. Because I seem to remember it started around 3 o'clock. Okay. So according to Wikipedia, the attack started at 2:12. They said that's when the first rioter entered the Capitol through the broken window in the Senate wing of the building, opening the door for others. So that was at 2:12. And you said Trump said something at 4 o'clock. That's only an hour. That's only like an hour and 48 minutes. How is that 3 hours? On Kristen, I mean, let's go. Why can we get the timeline correct? This is why people that weren't there, they're still confused about what happened that day. Trump made the speech at 4:03. Biden said something at 4:05. So he said 2 minutes after. I'm trying to figure something out. Okay, sure.
I want to know who you
By the way,
on that day.
Nancy Pelosi.
I
I don't
wanna
have.
talk about
Why would I tell you that? Listen, Nancy Pelosi was in charge of security. She turned down 10,000 soldiers. If she didn't turn down the soldiers, you wouldn't have had January.
Did you call military or law enforcement?
What?
Did you call military or law enforcement at the moment the
I'm
Capitol
not
was
going
under
to tell you
attack?
anything. Let me put it this way. I behaved so well. I did such a good job. Nancy Pelosi turned down 10,000 soldiers. If she didn't do that,
But
and now
Nancy
I
Pelosi
understand.
doesn't have
I
the authority
understand
that
that the
you
police
have as
testified
commander in
against.
chief, though.
Listen to me, Kristen.
Ma'am, she's in charge of Capitol security. Come on, we're not doing this. The Speaker of the House is in charge of Capitol security. They admitted that he asked for that the week before. He was willing to give her the age. They said no. What the hell? Why do y'all keep? Oh my God. He literally said it. It's documented. They said no. Well, all right. Official White House letterheads don't matter because it was Trump. All right. So we're just going to disregard people's job requirements because we don't want to admonish them for failing at their job. All right.
listen to me. I understand that the police testified against her, the chief very strongly against her, Capitol Police, great people. They testified against her and they burned all the evidence. Okay, they burned all the evidence. They destroyed all the evidence about Nancy Pelosi.
What do you say to people who wonder why you as commander-in-chief, you have authorities that Nancy Pelosi doesn't have? As
No, she has authority over
Why
the
didn't you
Capitol.
send help in that moment, though?
Frankly, just so you understand, I assumed that she took care of it. She turned down.
So when you realized that the National Guard wasn't coming,
Well, you don't realize anything until quite a while. National Guard not coming. I asked her to be there 3 days in advance, and she turned it down.
She says that request was never officially made.
Oh,
just
stop
so
it.
you know.
Let me just tell you.
Let me ask you
The
about
mayor of
pardons,
D- let me
Mr.
tell you.
President.
The mayor of D.C. gave us a letter saying that she turns it down. Okay, we have it. Nancy Pelosi also was asked, and she turned it down. The police commissioner
talking
of
about the
Capitol
day of
Police,
that.
wait a minute.
Yep.
Capitol Police said that he wanted it, and Nancy Pelosi wouldn't accept it. She's responsible for January 6th.
Mr. President.
Nancy Pelosi's responsible.
Mr.
And the
President, you're the
J6
president, though.
committee
You have
refused to interview her.
authorities that no one else has as the commander-in-chief. Do you think you showed leadership on that?
Yes,
day?
absolutely, I did.
Okay.
And I showed calm. Nancy Pelosi is responsible for the security, and she did a terrible job. And
Looking
by the way,
forward-
from what I understand, they burned all the evidence.
Okay, she says she never got an official request. They say they didn't,
she's
but that's
so-
what you're saying.
really-
Let's talk about.
And her daughter taping her.
Let's
Her
talk
daughter
about-
happened to be a
let's talk
documentary.
about potential
a documentary
pardons.
worker just happened to be there
Let's-
taping her at the time.
Let's talk about potential pardons because a lot of your supporters are wondering about that. Proud Boys leader Enrique Tarrio was sentenced to 22 years in jail. Now that you know what the sentence is, 22 years in jail, will you give him a pardon? Will
Are
you
you
give
ready?
other Proud Boys a
I
pardon?
don't know him. I never met him. I never heard of him until I started reading this
Will you
stuff.
pardon him?
But I want to tell you, he and other people have been treated horribly. Antifa
Oh
kills people.
no,
and don't even get tried in many
no,
cases.
no!
There's no
They
evidence
put these guys.
He's gonna get killed on that in 10 days. Now they're gonna say you're a Proud Boy supporter. Should have just quit while you were ahead. Say I will. You should have said what you said earlier. I will look at their case and I'll determine that. Move on. Now oh God. By the way, I'm not caping for Trump. I'm just trying to tell y'all a story. He's gonna get killed with this in 10 days. Hey MAGA, come get your man. Come get your man.
No medicine, there'd be no mayonnaise. No medicine, there'd be no mayonnaise. No medicine, there'd be no mayonnaise. No medicine, there'd be no mayonnaise.
By the way, quick departure. This article was 5 days after what happened. Ex-Capitol Police Chief says request for National Guard denied 6 times in riots. The former chief of the U.S. Capitol Police says security officials at the House and Senate rebuffed his early request to call in the National Guard ahead of a demonstration in support of President Trump that turned into a deadly attack on Congress. So not only did Trump put it out there, but the chief of U.S. Capitol Police asked for the additional support, and they said no. Because they didn't like the way it would have looked. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Sure.
Guys in jail for 17, 18, and 22 years. They didn't kill anybody. Some of them never even went into the Capitol. Some of them weren't even in D.C. and they got a 22 or a 17-year sentence. 16, 18,
More than 1,000
15,
people have
22.
been
Wait a minute.
charged,
Wait a
Mr.
minute. Yeah, 1,000 people. How many people? Let me ask you this. How many people were charged for destroying Portland? How many people were charged for burning
Will you
down
give
the
him a
police
pardon?
precinct and
Will
the
you pardon
courthouse
him, though? Will you pardon him?
in Minneapolis? I'd certainly look at it. I'd look at that and I'd look at all the other people that
Why
have
didn't you
suffered.
say that first? Why are you sitting here trying to give an answer about Enrique Tarrio? Come on, bro. You should have just said that first. I'll look at it. Move on.
For the J6 people.
Mr. President, let me ask you one final
that
question,
went
then let's
there
move on to foreign
that didn't
policy.
even go into the building have suffered gravely. And you have to say one system of justice, right? You take a look at what's gone on in Portland. They burned down the city. The city is in shambles to this day. The store owners don't even rebuild storefronts anymore. They put up 2x4s.
I want to move on to foreign policy, Mr. President.
But why do you do that? Why do you give me a horrible question and then you don't let me answer it? You're off to a bad start. I'm telling you.
Mr. President, I want to make sure you get to talk about foreign policy as well.
But I don't mind. I have all the time in the
You
world.
do? Okay.
I have all the time in the world. Why is it that the people, Antifa people, and very bad people that burned down Portland, burned down Minneapolis, burned down so much in New York City, what they did in New York City, and they were barely charged, and yet the people in Washington, in some cases, never even went into the building. They've been persecuted. They've been persecuted.
The people who were charged in January 6th, some of them were charged with sedition. Some of them were charged for violating the Capitol.
But many of these people have been persecuted, what they've done to them. And they didn't do this to the people that burned down. You take a look at Portland. It's like a burned down hulk of a city, including the federal courthouse.
Mr. President, if you were reelected, would you pardon yourself?
I could have pardoned myself. You know what? I was given an option to pardon myself. I could have pardoned myself when I left. People said, would you like to pardon yourself? I had a couple of attorneys that said, you can do it if you want. I had some people that said it would look bad if you do it, because I think it would look terrible. I said, here's the story. These people are thugs, horrible people.
Here's a story of a man named Donald. He just keeps talking and doesn't know what to say. And he will convince you that he's great until he's old and gray.
Marxists, sick people. They've been after me from the day I came down the escalator with Melania, and I did a great job as president. People were acknowledged. Great economy, great jobs, great this, great that. Rebuilt the military, Space Force, everything. I could go on forever. Let me just tell you. I said, the last thing I'd ever do is give myself a pardon. I could have given myself a pardon. Don't ask me about what I would do. I could have, the last day, I could have had a pardon done that would have saved me all of these lawyers and all of these fake charges, these Biden indictments. They're all Biden indictments, political. They indicted. They want to arrest their political opponents. Only third world countries do that, banana republic. So, ready? I never said this to anybody. I was given the option. I could have done a pardon of myself. You know what I said? I have no interest in even thinking about it. I never even wanted to think about it. And I could have done it. And all of these questions you're asking me about the fake charges, you wouldn't be asking me because it's a very powerful thing for a president. I was told by some people that these are sick lunatics that I'm dealing with. Give yourself a pardon, your life will be a lot easier. I said, I would never give myself a pardon.
Even if you were reelected in this moment?
Well, I think it's very unlikely. What did I do wrong? I didn't do anything wrong. You mean because I challenged an election, they want to put me in jail? I challenged an election, but I challenged a crooked election.
So it's not.
It was a rigged election. Right now. I challenged a rigged election. And now I'm going to win for a third time. I just hope they have better vote counters.
Let's move on to foreign policy, Mr. President. I want to talk about the war in Ukraine. I want to big picture get a sense of how you see this conflict. Do you see the security of Ukraine as critical to the security of the United States?
Okay, let me talk about it without interruption. Right? Ukraine would have never happened if I were president. If this election weren't rigged, Ukraine would have never happened. You would have hundreds of thousands of people, including lots of soldiers, still living. The cities would be flourishing, or at least up. These are cities that can never be rebuilt again. Certainly not the way they were. Magnificent buildings, all ripped down like a demolition site. It would have never happened for two reasons. Number one, and most importantly, Putin has a lot of respect for me. And he wouldn't have played games. And I told him, don't ever go in. And he would never have gone in. This was only after I left that this happened. Likewise, President Xi would never, ever be talking about Taiwan the way he's talking about it right now. And they didn't. They weren't talking about it. It was only after I left. He would have never gone in. Equally as importantly, oil prices would have been at $40 a barrel instead of $110 a barrel. So he wouldn't have been able to afford going in. He actually is the only nation that made money because oil has been driven so high by stupid people like Biden. Biden is an incompetent man. And what happened is oil. In fact, you're going to hit a new high very soon again. That means Russia. Russia makes money from oil. Russia is going to make a lot of money. And because they're making a lot of money, there's no reason for them to settle other than humanitarian reasons. And let's not assume people are going to be so humanitarian. So Putin would have never gone in because oil was at $40 a barrel. And he wouldn't have been able to afford to have gone in. At $100 a barrel, he made a fortune. And that's one reason. The other reason he wouldn't have gone in is because I said, don't go in. Don't even think about it.
Just to that key question, though, Mr. President, do you think that our security, the United States security, is linked to Ukraine's security?
I think that Europe has to do more. We're in for $200 billion. They're in for $25 billion. And it affects them more than it affects us. It certainly affects them much more than it affects us.
So you do think that it's linked
I think Europe
in
is
some
taking
way.
advantage of a stupid president.
You've probably...
Look, Biden should say to them, you have to equalize. You have to catch up. You know, Europe is about the same size as our economy if you add them all up, add the countries up. It's about the same size. And Biden should say to them, like I did with NATO. You know, NATO, they all owed money. I said, get your money in. And we had over $430 billion put in almost immediately. And the head of NATO, Stoltenberg, Secretary General, nice guy, he said to me, most amazing thing I've ever done. And he said it publicly too. He said, Bush would come in, make a speech and leave. Obama would come in, make a speech and leave. Trump came in and said, you guys aren't paying your bills. And I got him to pay. You know, they asked me something, which hasn't been reported, but the media knows it. We had a meeting of the 28 countries at that time, 28 countries. And they said to me, are you saying, sir, because I said, you got to pay your bills. Are you saying, sir, that you won't protect us against Russia if we don't pay? I said, sorry to tell you, that's what I'm saying. You know what happened?
Yeah.
They started sending us money and I was never given credit for it. But you wouldn't even have a NATO if it wasn't for me.
Let me ask you,
But here's the thing,
about
the
your
European
strategy.
countries have to start paying their share because
think-
we are having to do with Ukraine because we're 200 billion and they're at 20 or 25 billion. It's so unfair.
Let me ask you about your strategy, though, because you have said you want to end this war in 24
Yeah.
hours. You saw the meeting between Kim Jong-un and President Putin.
Saw
Do
that.
you think that complicates your strategy if you were reelected to try to end this
Look,
war in
it would have
24
been easier
hours?
if the war didn't start and you'd have hundreds of thousands of people living, most importantly. But it would have been a lot easier if it didn't. But I can get it done. I can get it done quickly.
How do you do it?
There's
Can you paint
another
a picture
example. You
for
talk
me?
about
Can
Kim
paint a
Jong.
picture? How
You
does
talk
that
about
happen?
Kim Jong Un. Right?
Mhm.
I got along great with Kim Jong Un after the first month or two when we were sparring. But I got along great with him. We were in no danger. There was President Biden said, and he felt even now, and President Obama told me when we sat down. Obama told me, and Biden still to this day, except I don't think he knows he can't put two sentences together. But President Obama told me our biggest threat is from North Korea. We're going to end up in a war. We didn't end up with a war with North Korea. We were going to make a deal. I would say I would have had a deal made with North Korea shortly after the election, had the election not been rigged.
How do you end this war, though? Talking of deals, how do you end this war in
Well, I
24
can't
hours?
tell you exactly because if I did, people understand. If I tell you exactly, I lose all my bargaining chips. I mean, you can't really say exactly what you're going to do, but I would say certain things to Putin. I would say certain things to Zelensky.
This bastard took a whole hour to finally say something intelligent. I'm not gonna show all my cards. He actually, wow. I think that's the most honest thing he said all night. Well, damn. I guess there's a hope for this man yet.
Zelensky, both of whom I get along. Don't forget, Zelensky did something that was very honorable. They asked him, it didn't stop these animals from impeaching me, but one of those things. They asked him, did Trump do anything wrong? He said, absolutely not. It was a very normal phone call. You can't say that about Biden's call because Biden, what he did was horrible with the prosecutor, but he said something that was very honorable. He could have grandstanded and said, oh, I felt threatened. He said that President Trump did absolutely nothing wrong on the phone call.
Some people hear you say you're going to end the war in 24 hours,
Yeah.
and they worry that means President Putin is going to get to keep the territory he's
I'd
unlawfully
make a fair
claimed.
deal for everybody. Nope. I'd make a
Doesn't
fair
mean
deal.
that? Wouldn't be a win for
something-
Putin?
That's something that could have been negotiated because there were certain parts, Crimea and other parts of the country that a lot of people expected could happen. You could have made a deal. So they could have made a deal where there's less territory right now than Russia's already taken, to be honest. And you could have made a deal where nobody was killed. They had a deal. They would have had a Ukraine country. Now nobody even knows if Ukraine is going to be totally taken over. I will say this, something's going on and it's not good for Ukraine because the news is no longer reporting about the war, the fake news. They don't report about the war anymore. You don't find much reporting. That means that Ukraine's losing. Okay. I see very little reporting from NBC, your network. I see very little reporting from NBC, ABC, from CBS, from anyone about the war. It used to be you'd go and you'd watch, even a couple of months ago, you'd watch all of this great strategy. The spring offensive never happened. Ukraine's spring offensive never happened because they were met with a wall of armaments and bombs.
President Putin's worried people are losing interest. President Zelensky's worried people are losing interest in this war. As you're saying,
No, I'm
Mr.
just saying,
President, how
I'm not
would-
seeing
would
anything
it be a
about the
top
war anymore.
priority
To
for
me,
you?
that means
Because we don't care. This has nothing to do with us outside them giving out all this money. We don't care. Fuck it. I'll let the tether say it.
I'm here to tell you right now, we don't care.
Let me tell you
We don't care.
Jerry,
We don't care about this war. We never did. That's why they took it off TV after 90, what was it? After 60 days. No, we didn't care. They were looking for us to start talking about it on social media. We didn't give a damn. Black folks were supposed to be the litmus test on how we would care about this war, how the world was supposed to care. We looked at it like, oh, it's a white country versus a white country. I could care less. Let's talk about these reparations. Let's talk about this anti-hate legislation. Let's talk about these midterms. I could give a damn. I've said it. I don't care about this war. I ain't doing no pray for Ukraine. The only time I'm going to care about this war, if Putin sends 5 Jamokes, well, I first said 3, but 5 Jamokes with 30 pounds of C4 to go blow open Chernobyl and screw the entire world. That's when I'll care. I really don't care now. Even when they put up those stupid videos on Twitter, when they show, oh, there's a war going on, but they're having fun at a Ukrainian beach. I could give a shit. Thank you, JB Easy. I went in on Malcolm Nance for saying he's going to go to Ukraine. I went in on him. I went in on the white supremacists that went over there who left when the bombs and the bullets started flying. I went in on Ken Reed. I don't care about this war. And notice, I haven't, after I did those 2 videos, I haven't said a word about Ukraine video-wise, and it's been over a year. I could have easily did shorts all day saying every time Biden gave them more money. I could have done that. I don't care. We got problems here. Let Putin rationalize that. Let Zelensky in his high heels rationalize that. I could give a fuck less. Let's go.
Is that probably because the press is fake and very discredited? That would mean that, look, here's my attitude on the war. I just want people to stop being killed. I was asked by that ridiculous CNN group during my town hall, whose side are you on? I said, I'm on the side of people stop being killed. I don't want to see people killed. They're being killed by the thousands and thousands and thousands. And that's the side I'm on. I don't want, and you know what? People like that answer, to be honest. And I stay with that same answer. I want people to stop being killed.
I want to ask you about something President Putin said about you this week. I don't know if you've seen it. This was very recent. President Putin said, quote, "We surely hear that Mr. Trump says he will resolve all burning issues within several days, including the Ukrainian crisis. We cannot help but feel happy about it." What do you make of that? Do you welcome this
report? I like that he said that, because that means what I'm saying is right. I would get him into a room, I'd get Zelensky into a room, then I'd bring them together, and I'd have a deal worked out. I would get the deal worked out. It would have been a lot easier before it started. Essentially, for 4 years, I kept them from doing anything, because you know what? I will tell you this. I've never said this. Ukraine was the apple of his eye. I said, don't ever do it. Don't ever do it. He would have never done it. But again, oil prices. He wouldn't have done it because of me, but oil prices. The prices were so high that he had so much money. So he had all this money to prosecute the war. The one who drove up the prices was Biden.
Given that President Putin has bombed maternity wards, 20,000 kids kidnapped from Ukraine by Russia, mass graves, do you welcome his support, his all but endorsement?
Look, I had a very good relationship with him, and yet nobody was tougher on Russia than me. I stopped Nord Stream 2. You never heard of Nord Stream 2. That was the pipeline until I got involved. I said Nord Stream 2, people that were sophisticated, military people and political people never heard of Nord Stream 2. I had it ended. The pipeline was dead. Biden came in and he approved it. There was nobody tougher than me with Russia, and yet I got along with Putin. Let me tell you, I got along with him really well. And that's a good thing, not a bad thing. He's got 1,700 nuclear missiles, and so do we. But look, that's a good thing. Getting along is okay, but I got along through strength. And the war would have never happened. The war would have never happened. Now what's happened is bad. The oil price is so high. It's hard to get it stopped. The oil price is so high. When he goes above $50 and $60 a barrel, he makes a lot of money on the war. Now, it's a humanitarian thing. It's a lot of different reasons, but I will get that war stopped very, very quickly.
I want to talk about another region that you talked about. Let's talk about another region you talked about, China. If you were to cut a deal between President Putin and President Zelensky, do you run the risk of emboldening China to invade Taiwan?
No, not at all. Because China, he's another one I got along to until we had the China virus come in. Once COVID came in, okay, once it was like, I made a great trade deal with China, one of the greatest deals ever made for the farmers and for the manufacturers. $50 billion a year is a great deal. I don't even talk about it because once COVID came in, it was like, I don't want to talk about anything. I was a much different person. What happened to this world, not our country, the whole world, what happened with COVID. And it shouldn't have happened. It shouldn't have happened. What China did to the world was so bad. But I had a great relationship with President Xi, really great relationship. And he was going to stop fentanyl from coming in. He was going to do a lot of, he was going to criminalize it if you made it. You know, in China, they have a death penalty for drug dealers. He was going to make that with fentanyl dealers too. But then the election didn't work out and he never had to do that.
I know you've been asked this, but very quickly, if China were to invade Taiwan, have you made a determination, again, since voters are about to go to the polls, would you send the U.S. military into Taiwan if President Xi were to invade? President Biden says he would.
I won't say, because if I said, I'm giving away, only stupid people are going to give that answer. I heard the other day, DeSanctimonious said something about he was going to do this or he was going to do that. I say, well, why is he saying the strategy? You can't say that. So when you ask me that question, I would never say that because you give away all your options.
But you don't take it off the table.
I don't take anything off the table.
If elected, you say you would order the Defense Department to use special forces to inflict maximum damage
I didn't
on
say
drug
that.
cartels.
No. People said I said that.
Okay, what would you do?
I didn't say that.
What would you
tell
do?
you what I do? Why would I say that? Because again, you don't want people to know your strategy. Now, people said they leaked and said things that I said this or I said that, or I was going to hit them with Patriot missiles, the drug dealers in Mexico. But I will say, and horribly, that they kill 250,000 people in the United States every year. You never hear that number. You hear 100,000. I think it's much more. They destroy families because when you lose a son or a daughter to fentanyl, or a wife or anybody else, but when you lose a son or daughter, your life is destroyed. Their lives are destroyed. They've destroyed so many families. It comes from Mexico. Mm-hmm. Something's got to be done. If we were in war, we would lose 250,000 people. We're losing more people than you lose in just about any war that we've ever had, and we lose them on a yearly basis. Something has to be done, and it has to be done fairly quickly.
Ron DeSantis says he's in this race to finish the border wall. What do you say to that?
Well, I built 500 miles of border wall. It was great. It was just what as you know, the Border Control Board and everybody else, Border Patrol. I had them in my office. We were going to do concrete plank, 40 feet high. They didn't want that. They wanted you see-through. They wanted to be steel, concrete, and rebar. I did everything. I gave them the wall that they wanted. We tested it. We had mountain climbers test the ones that's the wall we built. I built almost 500 miles of wall. We were then going to build another 200 miles of certain areas that all of a sudden people were coming into areas that they couldn't come into anymore. And we were all set to do that. It was all bought. And all Obama had to do, all Biden had to do, it could be Obama too, because a lot of people think he's calling the shot. So who knows? But all Biden had to do is go out and put it up. And he not only didn't put it up, he took it off the site and they put it in yards hundreds of miles away so that Texas and Arizona couldn't get it. I had the safest border in history. I had the best border in history. We had the lowest drug numbers for years and years and years, decades. We had the lowest drug numbers. We had the lowest human trafficking numbers. We had the least number of people coming across. All he had to do is go to the beach like he does all the time. If he went to the beach and didn't do anything, we'd have a great border right now.
Final question, Mr. President.
Yeah.
You have met with prime ministers, kings, queens, dictators. You've seen it all. As you think about the possibility of a second term, do you still think that democracy is the most effective form of government?
I do, but it has to be a democracy that's fair. This democracy is, I don't consider us to have much of a democracy right now. They indict their political opponent. Free speech is shot because the press is very dishonest. Very dishonest. I have to, even the way you fight me on simple questions like, the border and this, you fight me so much. And I'm saying, why are you fighting me? When I first ran, the approval rating of the media was very high. And now it's very low and maybe below Congress, which is pretty hard to believe. People understand what's going on. We need a media that's free and fair. And frankly, if they don't have that, it's very, very hard to straighten out our country.
Did you feel as president you had enough power, though, if you were reelected?
She lied. Hey, you said that was the last question, and now you're asking another one. You lied. Why did she look crazy right there?
Did you try to find ways? For example, there's a report you're looking into firing potentially people within the federal government who aren't necessarily perceived to be loyal. Would you need more power?
Well, just so you understand, that's what the Democrats do. Okay, they do it in spades.
Would you do that?
They do it at a level that you wouldn't believe. I mean, nobody's ever done. No, I wouldn't do that. I want great people, whether they're Republican or Democrat. I want great people, but I want people that love our country, not people that hate our country.
Anything else you'd like to say?
No, I think it's good. I think we did. We did a lot.
Is there any scenario by which, because Ron DeSantis says if you were elected, he'd have 2 terms and you'd only have 1 more term. Is there any scenario by which you would seek a 3rd term in office?
No, just so you understand, when DeSantis says that, that means he's not your man. He's not your man anyway because he's a very untalented guy, and he's proven that.
Jesus.
Everybody was talking to him. After I worked him over a little bit, he's gone down the tubes. I think he's going to end up being number 3 or 4. He just had a poll today. He was number 4. And by the way, the one that was number 2 was 59 points behind. So, it's very interesting. But when somebody says, hey,
ooh, if that poll is true, we know who's number 2. He ain't even mentioned that man's name. Oh, 27th is going to be so much fun.
years, we need 8 years. No, in 6 months to a year, many of the problems, almost all of the problems that you and I have just spoken about will be solved. Anybody that says they need 8 years, you don't want that person.
Thank you, Mr. President. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, and good luck.
We went all around the horn
luck.
today, and I
Yes, we
appreciate it very much.
Good luck for many
Thank
years.
you. Thank you for giving me a little extra time.
All right, family, there you go. There's the interview. There's the interview. That was interesting. Now, I did put a poll up on the in this live stream. I wanted to see how people thought Trump fared in this. And the results are in. We have, great and okay are tied at 35%, neutral at 25%, and terrible at 5%. And this was with 20 votes. Okay, say less. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. JB Easy, Ricky 12. Hello. You said I think Nikki Haley would be the nominee if not Trump. Nikki Haley. I don't think you want Nikki Haley as your nominee. You might as well stay home if they pick her. I think you should stay home if they pick her. Nikki Haley is a grift. I'm sorry to say. She's a grift. She's so much of a grift, family. She doesn't even have her issues on her website. You think I'm kidding? We're going to look at it together. Now we're here. This is her. Nice family. Nice family. So we go to the three dashes and we're looking. You would think it would be in here. Grassroots toolkit, social media toolkit, commit to caucus for Nikki. Yeah. Coalitions. Okay. Where is your issues and what you're fighting for? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Nikki Haley is just a talker. I'm not saying she hasn't done things, but she doesn't even have her platform on her website. How are you supposed to know what she's for? No, we're not doing that. Ooh, family. You know what? So okay, I was gonna say that ramen noodles stole Nikki Haley's idea when he said that if you fundraise for him, you'll keep 10% of the donations. So I guess this must be a thing for. Okay, so he just took it to another step. Okay, so we'll let him live for today. But yeah, she doesn't even have her platform on her website. So she just goes where the wind blows. Okay, let's see. NBC has it. What's her key issues? Okay, abortion. She opposes abortion rights, of course. Immigration. She she wants to fix the broken immigration system, but she says she opposed open borders. Okay. She opposed efforts to expand Medicaid under the Affordable Care Act. Taxes. She's an ardent tax cutter. So this all tells me she has she can get in the she can get a job. She can get a job. That's what this tells me. Yeah. There you go, family. That was Trump on Meet the Press. Again, like I said, not a bad interview. Not a bad interview. People said it went off the rails. I mean, it didn't look like that. I mean, he did push back a lot, but that's what he usually does. So to me, he was okay. You got to stop talking about that goddamn election, though, man. That shit is annoying now. Mm, mm, mm. But anyway. I'm going to sleep. It is late. I'd like to thank y'all for being here. Join me later today at 4 p.m. We're going to talk about AAPI crime. That's going to be fun. So I might even make that an open panel at the beginning so we can all listen to it together. So if you want to be a part of that, let me know in the Discord if you're part of the Discord. If you're not part of the Discord, I do have a Discord now. So I put that in the chat so you can join the Discord and join us. So y'all take care, stay safe, and you know what to do when agents. I'm sorry, I'm sleepy. The agents of chaos try to mess up your day or appropriate now, night. You do this.